Honestly, I didn't I haven't known really what to do or how I wanted to go about this. If I'm being honest, it's a little terrifying, but in light of worldwide situations going on, I can't really be quiet about it, right? And I'm going into this fully aware I probably am gonna lose some friends, some people. I might get kicked out of servers, and honestly, I don't really care because compared to everything else, compared to on the surface relationships, this is far more important to me than anything else. And I hope that those that actually make it through and listen will understand. Like, it's not gonna change how I approach people. It's not gonna change how I interact. I'm still gonna be respectful and polite and kind and caring and loving to people. That's not that part of me is not gonna change. But especially considering that I like content creation and I do it, I wanted to make sure that there is something that I could point to, a place that I could point people to about that could at least explain, right? Like what I believe. Um, it's scary. It's scary in the online world. I mean, especially in the gaming world. I'm not one for conflict or causing people to have fights. In fact, if anything, anybody that knows me is if the stuff that I love to do is I love to educate. I'm an educator. I want people to be able to come to their own thoughts and their own conclusions, and if they disagree, they disagree. That's fine. In the wake of current situations, though, I just I'm struggling with this. I need to talk about my faith. I started playing video games when I was a very, very young kid. I fell in love with them, and in part that's just due to the situation and circumstances my family had. We didn't really have a lot of options. And as I went through life, video games kind of became that place that I could escape from the world, more or less. I dealt with my dad being a pastor and a lot of pressure and a bunch of people expecting me to be some perfect kid, some morally like upstanding citizen to live to the fullest expectation, to know all the answers, and they didn't give a damn about me as a person at all. They didn't care. It led to a lot of conflict and a lot of struggle in my high school years, a struggle with myself, my identity, like who I was, and especially because I'm an emotional guy. I have more effeminate qualities about me. Didn't really know if I should be a guy at all. If I was really supposed to be a guy in any point. And then when a bunch of people claiming to be good, believing people turn their backs on you, you really begin to doubt your own faith. Like, damn, these people say that Jesus is supposed to be the Son of God, that he's supposed to love everybody and he's supposed to care. But you better fit our perfect boxes. You better do X, Y, Z. You better have this in a row. You better have that in a row. Don't mind that, Jesus accepted everybody for where they're at. Nope, you have to be this, this, and this. And that infuriated me. And that inflamed me. And I left being a believer completely. I would say I was agnostic. There's enough evidence in my life that I couldn't deny that there was something out there. But as I'm sitting there, in the high school years, struggling with all these questions, this reckoning of self and identity issues, depression, anxiety, suicide, all of that was there. I couldn't cope with the fact that the idea that there were these people who were claiming to be morally superior, morally and ethically good, and then living the opposite. And I just could not find myself wanting to abide by that in the slightest. It ate away at me. And then on the flip side, if there has to be some sort of God out there, because there's supernatural stuff that's happening. And it's so strange to wrap your head around and to comprehend. Like, I'm an academic. I love researching and looking into things and understanding. And there were instances of so many medical instances, so many instances of prophetic things happening in visions. And don't get me wrong, there's plenty that have been false and misused and abused, and it's and especially after my experience, it's what seeded a deep mistrust in the church. I hated church. I hated the idea of it. I hated anybody that had anything to do with it, because I thought they were all a bunch of hypocrites and liars out to manipulate people. And that's, and yet, despite that, I couldn't sit there and comprehend the fact that there was still some supernatural type happenings. Things around near-death experiences are really interesting. Stuff across the country and across the world that just didn't make sense. And then even on a individual personal level, some accounts and history of family that happened just didn't make sense. Just to throw one out there, who in the world survives having a suicide attempt where they've stabbed themselves in the heart 3 times? Because I know somebody that did. Not only was this person able to stab themselves 3 times, which is already, if you know anything about the human body, if you puncture the heart, it's all functions basically are supposed to stop. This person was able to do it 3 times and live. That is, how do you comprehend that? Right? As any rational human being, how do you comprehend an experience like that? So I've got all these questions. And my life is going absolutely nowhere, to be completely honest with you. My life is not great. There's a lot of struggle and a lot of doubt, and okay, so there's probably something out there, but like, obviously it doesn't care. There's so much garbage going on in the world, and I mean, and even just on a personal level, it's just to me, there's so much that has happened, and experiences, and mistreatment, and abuse, and everything that can't comprehend it. And I got to this point, whereas I was thinking through all these things throughout the course of high school. This took 4 years. I mean, I became a very, very cynical individual, a moral relativist, if you will. Everything is permissible and nihilistic in the sense that nothing matters. Like, it doesn't matter what I do, it doesn't matter where I go, it doesn't matter what I become. None of it's gonna matter anyway. Hell, even the stuff that's going on in the country right now, and like 200 years, this guy's legacy is probably gonna be forgotten. Once this country or another country gets taken over, it's very easy to wipe the history of it. History is set by the winners more often than not. So you lose a lot there. I don't place value in legacy because in my mind at least I've seen just how arbitrary it all is. It's empty, it's pointless. It's gonna end. I'm gonna die. Hell, when I was that age, it was like, meh. My life really doesn't matter all that much anyway. Who's gonna miss me? So I'm sitting there trying to contemplate what to do, and I end up going to a college, and I do absolutely abysmal. In fact, I just about flunked out my first term. Um, it was, and this also is from a guy who had also just come out of uh, tried to get into a relationship with somebody, and that was incredibly manipulative. And it just turned out really, really poorly. So I'm sitting there in my dorm room, and I'm just contemplating all this. And I start to have a conversation with a guy that's now probably my closest friend. And, I'm wrestling. Like, the first week I get to school as well, I get some heartbreaking medical news that mostly I know that people will track me down if they really want to find out data about me. It's not that hard to in this day and age. But for the sake of my own anonymity and for the general public, I'm just gonna say it's medical related. It was related to my brother having to have a type of surgery. I got that the first week that I went to school. And it broke me. I'm supposed to be at the height of my life. I'm out. I'm out. I'm finally free of the damn city I grew up in, and all the relationships and the connections, and I can finally just begin to explore this identity and maybe try and find a way to live in this world as a functioning human being, because if you're in that mindset, it's really, really difficult to comprehend what it means to be alive and why. Your purpose and meaning they feel pointless, to be quite honest. Like, they don't feel like they matter. So I'm sitting there. And over the next few months, I begin to build a relationship with a guy. And we're talking, and we're talking. And he's wrestling through some stuff, and I'm wrestling through some stuff. And it's, and this conversation turns into something really strange for me. I think I was just searching for something to make sense, searching to understand what the hell is going on in the world and why in the possible frickin' life there could be such atrocities that people can commit against each other. And in no world did I believe that that would have been out of the Christian faith. Like, hell, maybe I should have been born a girl. Maybe I should just start living as a girl. That would definitely make me feel more comfortable at that point in my life. I mean, I don't get guys. I've never understood them. I've never been like them. Even in people my own age, just don't get it. I'm sitting there comprehending, and I turn to this guy and I'm like, you want to start a Bible study? Like, the hell kind of words coming out of my mouth? Right? Like, I haven't opened a Bible in 7-8 years. I haven't really cared or been inclined to follow in this religiosity or this fake bullshit that people are living by in their faith and people are saying. Like, all Christians are hypocrites and liars and like, just they're trying to make themselves feel morally better than everybody else. And I turn to him and I say that. I don't know what compelled me. But we start reading. And we do this for a few weeks, and then I begin to realize something as I'm reading through this. There's a difference between what I'm reading and the way people were acting. There's a difference between what is spoken in the word and the way that people live it out. And I remember that period of time vividly. It wasn't some massive, like, boom, I woke up and then all of a sudden, now I'm a believer. No. It was a slow process. I mean, trying to figure out how to wrestle with evil was probably the biggest cause of it all. How in the world do you deal with a world like this? With people that are willing to kill each other over a difference in beliefs and ideologies? How do you live in a world where discrimination and abuse and murder and rape and warfare and violence all just are perpetuated and in some places endorsed? Slavery as well. Like, the list goes on. It just, like, how the hell can I believe that there is some being out there that is all good when I have to deal with all of that bull? There were two things in that moment that I realized. One, it's somehow, some way, every instance of heartache, of trauma, of hurt, of pain, of suffering has been used to bring about some form of good in my life. And there's a lot. I mean, just trying to think back on it, I realize this now, part of the reason I have some difficult identity issues with myself, it's just rough because it's the way I was treated as a kid, you know? Like, it's no wonder that I developed into having anxiety and depression when on a regular, sometimes daily basis, I'm basically informed that I don't matter. I'm not valued. I'm not wanted. I'm not seen. I'm not heard. You know? And that's heartbreaking. And some of it was maliciously intentional. teachers, peers, siblings, even to some extent, although given our circumstances, I don't really blame them. I treated them just the same, if I'm honest. There was so much stress in that house. And I think as kids, when you're exposed to that level, it's really hard to deal with it. And I truly think some of it was unintentional, just the pressures of life, you know, that happened. But I got told I didn't matter. I got told I wasn't wanted. I got told I wasn't valued. No wonder I have identity issues. I got told I wasn't a guy. I just like my the things that I liked weren't good for men or anything. Like who sits down and wants to sew and learn to crochet? And it's no wonder I get told all this. And then I have the people that are supposed to have my back walk out on me. Not once, not twice, not 3 times, but over and over and over again over the course of 10 years. It's no wonder. And then I'm reading in the Bible that that is not the same thing as the God who lives and breathes. That the pain and suffering that I had to experience weren't for nothing. And I can recount over the next, well, honestly, the next half of my life up to this point, over and over and over again, how those experiences, those traumas, those pains, those sufferings have brought about good. Not because they were something that was, deemed to be good. They were evil. They were evil done by the hands of human beings. That a God and a Savior used to wrap around and bring good. And I will say that wasn't like it's not like that's the end of all the suffering of encountered. In fact, how do I talk about bearing the emotional weight of an entire school on my back during COVID? Being an emotional concrete floor for people to talk and work through their issues, to counsel through. How do I talk about being, lied to and manipulated, and then attempting to get into some relationships and just being utterly mistreated again and again, even to my most current one, which went well, it was good, but just due to some conflicts internally with her, it just didn't work out. And then some things that were said to me just broke me, where I couldn't stay around, and I don't wish any ill intent or evil or badmouth her. But those things, in a heat of an emotional exchange, they were the last straw. And as a guy that wants nothing more than to get married one day, who's poured so much into his life, who has been in so many weddings, can sometimes be really hard to believe it is possible for someone like you to be loved. When and I wasn't ready in some cases, and I'm not gonna sit here and say, "Oh, it's all there." No, I messed up a ton. I hurt a lot of people. Made a lot of mistakes. Even in these relationship situations, I have messed up. Whether it's things I said or did or whatever, and I hurt people. And I've had to go and I've had to apologize and ask for forgiveness for it. Even in my failings and my sins and my flaws, good has somehow still been brought about through them. My issues, my problems, my lack of confidence in myself caused me to be not a fictitious or fake person all the time, but to put on this mask in front of people. First thing that had to go when I started to come to know Christ and started to actually accept it. And that caused a lot of people to get hurt because I didn't know what it meant to be me. I didn't know how to express that. And so sometimes I talked too much or got too emotional or didn't know how to handle my emotions well, and said one thing to one guy that caused us not to speak for a couple of years, honestly, and that hurt and that sucked, because it's a mistake I made, and yet I got to reconcile. We got to talk about it years later and mend the bridge. Not that I speak to them very often anymore, but it's the same deal. How did I deal with the evil? And then now I'm sitting here today, you know, thinking about all this, where I've gotten to in life, which doesn't really feel like I've gone much of anywhere, if I'm honest. With a very, very, very heavy heart. And yet this burning desire to just say, I believe in Christ. I trust in God. I believe that He made men and women, just men and just women, that there shouldn't be sex outside of marriage, and there's scientific evidence to back that one up too. It's not healthy. That celebration of violence, violent acts, are not to be committed against one another, against your fellow human being, no matter what they may believe, because they were made in the image of God. Even if they don't believe it, even if they don't accept your viewpoint, even if they don't ascribe to your belief, you are to treat them as made in the image of God with love, kindness, care, and respect. Doesn't mean that there won't be consequences for actions and that there shouldn't be justice or things like that. I'm not going there. But that despite a difference of viewpoints and fundamental viewpoints, we are called to love one another as Christ loves the church. That a man will sow what he reaps. If he reaps destruction, he will sow. If he sows destruction, he will reap destruction. But if he sows life, he will reap eternal life in the Spirit. Kind of paraphrasing off of Galatians 6 there. And ultimately, it's funny because then I look at Ecclesiastes and it's talking all about how irrelevant life is at the end of it all, right? Legacy, mission, purpose. This guy, it's tried everything: sex, all the women, all the men too, probably. Wine, drinking, partying, whatever it is. And what did he find? Well, it's all knowledge, and foolishness as well. I should add to that. It's all meaningless, except for in the service of God. Yeah, on this earth, nothing we do is going to matter or last or care. Our bodies are going to break down, or some of ours, like mine, break down faster than others. It's part of what we have to deal with. So who cares, right? Go do whatever you want. Go live however you want, be whoever you want. But then, at the same time, for as much as they matter here, it does matter to Him and to Christ, to God. Our actions they have eternal value because of the eternal God. The things that we do here, they may not mean much to the human race or humans in general, but they mean so much to Christ. I mean, hell, our actions condemn us. I've never done anything perfectly in my life. I've never done everything good. In fact, I've done a lot of wrong, a lot of evil. I mean, and this is not I grew up and my parents told me what was good or evil. Sure, that might have had some influence, but just even culture has a significant influence on that. And yet, here I am, unafraid to be swearing, which some would find offensible, to have tattoos and marks on my arm, which some would find offensible and unbiblical. And I can make a very dedicated theological case for those statements. But there were just some things that I knew were wrong. Hurting others, doing harm to others. Sometimes I wanted to. Sometimes I did. And yet I knew they weren't right. And yet despite that, despite the evil that I've done, I'm forgiven. I have to face consequences. Face consequences for a while for various different things. But in the eyes of Christ, I'm forgiven. And all that sin is washed away. All the sin that I have done and will do. It's my job to live for Him and to share Him with others and to tell others about Him. And you know what? Damn it all, people might hate me for this, and I don't care. He matters way more to me than any sort of friendships or relationships or anything. And the reason that I hold so strongly to those is because I've witnessed it. And yeah, is it experiential? Sure. But it was an experience that came about through raw, unfiltered questioning. Being unafraid to sit there and ask myself the most difficult questions somebody can ask. and to then come to the realization that in all the studying of all the religions and all the worldviews that I've come across and went through, there's not one. There's not one that talks about loving your enemies. There's not one that talks about turning the other cheek. There's not one that says everybody can be forgiven. Everybody has that opportunity. And don't get me on the specifics of when that happens or how that all works out. I have ideas and I've worked through some of those and I challenge things regularly. I have to. I don't believe something just because I'm told. I studied it. I studied others. I looked. I searched and I searched and I searched. And even right now, I'm sitting here having listened to so many people talk about this situation. And I'm sitting here being affected by a guy that I never met and never heard about till last week. But I'm affected by it and I'm emboldened by it because this was a guy that above all else was honest with his faith. I have no doubt I could probably find some things that theologically I could disagree with him on. Stances, politics, whatever. I don't care. But he was a believer, and that was his priority. That was what came first. He wanted to evangelize to anybody and everybody, even those that spit and mocked and hated him. And I've been coming around to being more and more bold with my faith for a long time. And this is just another step in that process. Except it's going to be a hell of a lot more public. People are going to have to deal with the fact that if they ever look up my stuff, this is going to be a pinned video. And if people don't want to associate with me after this, fine. You don't like the fact that I believe in Christ, that I believe in God, that I believe He made men and women unique individuals, that He didn't make a mistake with that all life is valuable, that we should be kind and compassionate and caring, that we should work to overcome issues together, that even if I might disagree with you, it doesn't mean that I'm going to treat you any differently. Even if theologically you can call me hateful and bigoted, that's not the way that I practice. That's not the way that I'm called to live. Even if I have to lose work, even if I have to lose my life, I don't care. Christ is more important. Coming to Christ is more important. And so I guess that's the question that I want to leave people with in this really emotional ramble, testimonial, if you will. Actually study what the scriptures say. Don't just take what the internet tells you or what the preachers tell you, or, because abusive churches exist, abusive people in power and pastors and all of that exists. I've been privy to not the worst of them, but I've been privy to it. I've seen it. Study it. Look into it. Take a chance to try to understand. If you come to know Christ through it, great. It's amazing. If you still choose to deny it, it is your choice. I'm not going to sit here and try and tell you that it's this way or the highway. It's not my goal here. But I want people to give it a shot. I want those that maybe have never considered it to look into it. Just study and read it. Read it for yourself. Draw your own conclusions. Don't let other people tell you what to think about it. At least, and I mean, there are concrete and anti-cultural statements out there that are in the Bible that are biblically foundational that some may disagree with, many will not like. But how in the world can I sit here and deny saying that when I have borne witness to just how it has changed my own life? How can I sit here and say nothing in the wake of being a part of so many communities who have people that support things that I don't agree with? How can I sit here and hold my tongue forever and not just say, this is what I believe, and I would love if you would give it a chance, if you would just read and look into it. Maybe you will come out of it and you will be a little smarter, a little wiser, a little more understanding. And that's all you get out of it. You don't change where you stand. Okay. That's fine. Yet I want to prompt people to just go and see. Go and try to understand. And if you know me and you have questions, I'm more than happy to share more in private conversations. This video is already going to be far longer than I anticipated, and that's okay. I'm not always the best at cohesive thinking without a lot of editing, but this is going to be just an unedited 45-minute talk outlining why I believe what I believe. I came to know Christ not because I was told to, not because I had any reason to. In fact, I had every reason to turn away, to walk away, to spit in the face and mock it. I had every reason, every excuse in the book. And yet, he didn't give up on me. And as I allowed for him to come into my life, I became a changed person. One who could love unequivocally, who could care, who could be compassionate, who will make mistakes, who has made mistakes and will continue to, and will fail over and over, but rests in knowing that he is a son of God, made in the image, like every other human being. If there's nothing else you get from me, and there's nothing else that you know that I am a Christian. I am an unashamed Christian who holds to the truth of the word.